This program chronicles the crimes of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, the description of which some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
There is no question in my mind that what Jeffrey Dahmer became was the embodiment of evil.
First thing that we saw was a human head that was in a refrigerator.
The bodies had totally disappeared, not a trace. None of them knew what had happened to their sons.
And no one in a million years could have guessed the monstrosity that was inside his head.
When the city of Milwaukee awoke on the morning of July 23rd, 1991, the damage had already been done. Best known for its many breweries, Milwaukee had overnight become notorious as the home of one of the worst serial killers in history. The night before, in a small one-bedroom apartment on the city's west side, police had discovered a death chamber. Only one man ever escaped that apartment to tell the story. 6 months later, in the Milwaukee County Courthouse, 32-year-old Tracy Edwards would recount a night of sheer terror at the hands of Jeffrey Dahmer. Late in the afternoon of July 22nd, Dahmer approached Edwards, who was eating with some friends at the Grand Avenue Mall.
And he said he was a professional photographer. He usually pays people for pictures and stuff like that if anybody was interested in making money at that time.
He offered Edwards $100 to pose nude at Dahmer's apartment. According to Edwards, there was no indication of any homosexual intent.
He didn't even act like it at that time.
At first, Edwards hesitated, but needed the money and agreed to go to Dahmer's apartment to check things out. They entered the Oxford apartment complex, and Dahmer unlocked the door to apartment 213.
When we got inside, he turned off burglar alarms. I asked him why. First, it was a foul odor, okay?
Tell us about that. What kind of an odor?
It was just like an odor. I didn't quite know what it was. You know, he told me a sewer pipe had broke and management would take care of it.
There were security cameras and a sophisticated alarm system.
He said the part of the neighborhood he was in, he was protecting his property, things like that. It was like normal, pretty decent apartment, had nice things in it.
They sat down on the couch. Tracy Edwards suspected nothing. He was simply visiting with a normal, everyday person, a good conversationalist.
He asked me, was I interested in doing the photography? You know, I told him I was still contemplating, so therefore he offered me a beer and a rum and coke mixture.
Dahmer drank a beer too, as Edwards sipped at his rum and coke.
I'm not a big liquor drinker, so it didn't taste that good to me.
While he didn't know it then, his distaste for liquor may have saved Tracy Edwards' life. The drink was drugged, Dahmer's modus operandi for gaining control over his victims. To Edwards, the mood seemed to grow heavy. He decided to skip the photos and prepared to leave.
Yeah, then I was just, I don't know, getting a little agitated maybe, you know, because of the smell and things. And then he threw my conversation off talking about the fish in the fish tank, you know.
As Edwards turned to look at the fish, Dahmer seized the moment. He slapped a handcuff on Edwards' left wrist and placed a large knife against his ribs.
I think, like, you know, what's going on, you know? This guy is so nice, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like he's pulling knives and handcuffs and all on me, you know. He told me at that point if I wouldn't do what he said, he would kill me. It's like not the same person that we met at Grand Avenue Mall.
How is he different?
His face structure seemed different, you know, his body structure, it's like it wasn't him anymore, you know? It's like it was a totally different guy there.
Dahmer then seemed to calm down. He told Edwards the key to the handcuffs was in the bedroom, and with the knife at Edwards' back, guided him there. As they entered the bedroom, Edwards noticed a large blue drum against the wall, but didn't ask about it. With Edwards still cuffed on his left wrist only, they sat on the bed together and began to watch a tape of The Exorcist III, which Dahmer said was his favorite movie. Periodically, while watching the tape, Dahmer would rock back and forth, mumbling and chanting.
And then he would turn around and try to ask me to put both of my hands behind my back, and I wouldn't, you know, do it. I would talk to him. I'd tell him, you can trust me, you know, you don't have to do this, and that would calm him down a little bit.
After a while, Dahmer assumed control again.
He told me to lay down, face down, put both of my hands behind my back, because he He changed again at that point, like he got more aggressive at that time. He kind of laid across me, put his head across my chest like he was listening to my heart, because at a point he told me he was going to eat my heart at that point.
Said he was going to eat your heart?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he still have the knife?
Yeah.
Where was the knife pointed?
When I was on the floor, he had it pointed at my groin area at that time. I knew something was about to happen, so I suggested that I go to the bathroom. I had to use the bathroom.
Dahmer let him go. Edwards said he seemed calmer when he returned.
Yeah, I told him I want to sit in the front because it's an air conditioner, and I was just going to try to jump out the window or go for the door. So I had unbuttoned my shirt to try to make him feel more at ease. And then I just sat on the couch and he just started going out of himself again.
Going out of himself?
Yeah, he was like paying me no attention at that time.
Edwards seized the opportunity. He hit Dahmer and bolted out the door. As he ran down the street, he flagged a passing police car. The police, with Edwards, returned to the apartment and found Dahmer and his chamber of horrors. There were photos strewn about of young men in various stages of dismemberment. Realizing the enormity of the crime scene, police arrested Dahmer, sealed the apartment, and called in County Medical Examiner Dr. Jeffrey Jensen.
First thing that we saw was a human head that was in a refrigerator, and after that it was we considered to be a localized disaster.
Jensen then led a room-by-room search, finding body parts, skulls, and a human heart in the freezer. They found soup kettles filled with skulls, male genitals, and human hands. There was a complete skeleton in the bedroom, and the blue tub contained 3 human torsos.
In the freezer component, there was another frozen skeleton, and that was also inventoried. And then it was the process of piecing together, so to speak, the different body parts with skulls.
The morning after his arrest, the startling images of Jeffrey Dahmer's freezer and other evidence being hauled out of his apartment beamed all over the world. In Milwaukee, the discovery of a serial killer terrified families who had loved ones missing.
Less than 5 minutes.
Stanley Miller's nephew, Ernest, had disappeared 10 months earlier.
That morning when I woke up and saw it on the news, something just drew me there, I just knew he was there.
He was right. Ernest Miller's skull was among those discovered in the apartment. It was Oliver Lacey's head in the refrigerator, the head of Emmanuel Lacey's father and Catherine Lacey's son.
I even went over there and I seen them take him out and all his things, and I walked around the building and I got a cold feeling in my stomach. It's like a pain had hit me in my stomach.
The pain would turn to horror as they learned exactly how their loved ones died. Necrophilia, dismemberment, cannibalism, lobotomies. Within hours of his arrest, Jeffrey Dahmer admitted to all this and more.
He wanted to confess. It was clearly voluntary. He wanted to get it off. He helped the police solve murders that they didn't even know about, that they were murders. So he wanted to unload.
His full confession would detail 11 murders within his tiny apartment, 4 more in the basement of his grandmother's house, 1 in a hotel room, and another, his first, in 1979 in his boyhood home in Bath, Ohio. His upbringing, as he traced it now for police, was in some ways unusual for a serial killer.
He was not sexually abused, and he was not physically abused by his parents. A third feature, less frequently found, but often found in serial killers, is economic deprivation. In other words, raised in financial hardships. Quite the opposite was the case in Dahmer's situation. He was raised in an affluent home. Indeed, they lived on 1 1/4 wooded acres with a private pond. Dahmer's father is an educated man with a doctor's degree in chemistry. In my opinion, Dahmer himself has a superior intellect.
But in another respect, he did fit the profile of a serial killer. He was a loner who had difficulty relating to people. Author and retired FBI agent Robert Ressler coined the term serial killer during his time as head of the FBI unit that tracks such criminals. He has studied the childhood behavior of many serial killers and found that most don't interact well. rarely dating as teenagers. In their isolation, they begin to have powerful fantasies.
The fantasies become violent, retribution, getting even with those who have been unfair with me, hurting others, destroying property, vandalism, setting fires. All these things kind of become interwoven with sexual fantasies. And the sexual fantasies, which again are normal for a young pre-adolescent or adolescent, become abnormal in that they become violent, they become hostile.